Hey guys, welcome back and welcome to part 3 of the no-till farming video series. In this video, I want to talk about taking a bed at the end of the season, at the end of summer, and putting in a quick crop and turning around and getting that bed to be productive again. So it's at this time of year that I'm really starting to think about my fall planting, but we're about 2 months away for a lot of those beds. And so we need a way for those beds to still be productive before we get those fall crops in. So this particular bed here is a 4x8. It was last planted in the spring. It ran an early crop. I would say probably March of spinach. And I had a few peas, strung up along here. But I've since let the bed go fallow. A few dandelions have taken over, but this is no problem at all. So we're going to get this bed set up using the no-till method, and I'll show you just how easy this is. Okay, if you're just joining us now, you might be wondering, what is no-till farming? Well, no-till farming is a non-invasive practice of growing fruits and vegetables without disturbing the soil, or at the very least, minimal disturbance. So within the no-till framework, there's a lot of different methods and practices on how to do no-till farming. You have your sheet mulching, you have your lasagna gardening, you have your no-dig methods, as well as heavy mulching and other permaculture practices. So let me show you how I prepare this bed here. As you can see, there's quite a few weeds in here. Under traditional gardening practices, you would till this whole bed, you would turn it all up, and then it would be ready for either planting your seeds or putting your transplants in. Well, the no-till method is quite a bit different than that. In fact, it's the opposite. So I'm going to go ahead and prepare this bed now for planting seeds, and then we'll come back and talk about what I did after. Well, I'm going to have to be careful of these guys. So if the weeds are small, I'm not worried about them because they're going to get buried later. But if the weeds are big, I am cutting them down right at the root collar. The root collar is where the plant meets the soil. Okay, so the bed is weeded, no-till style. Total time invested, 4 minutes. I know you're probably thinking to yourself, what the heck is this guy doing? But trust me, you'll see, it'll pay off. On to the next step. Next up, you want to layer your bed with simple newspaper. Now, colored newspaper is okay. In North America, most major news publications use vegetable dyes for their inks. But you're going to want to steer away from glossy ads, glossy flyers, and of course things like perfume inserts. So simply go ahead and layer your newspaper on like so, completely smothering those weeds and not giving them a chance to grow back. You know, the great thing about this is that, you know, if I were to rotivate this garden, there would still be tons of seeds and everything around. Well, this doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if there's any seeds under this newspaper. It's going to smother anything, you know, from germinating up, and the only thing that's going to grow is what I put on top of it. Now, if it's a windy day, you might need to wet the newspaper to keep it from flying away. But that's no problem. Okay, so the whole bed has now been mulched essentially with wet newspaper. Now we're ready for the next step. So for the next step, you're going to need a seedling or potting mixture to lay down to create a space to put our seeds. Now, I make my own potting and seeding mixtures. I'll throw a link down below to show you how I do it. Now, essentially, I use a proper potting or seeding mixture whenever I'm putting new seeds into a bed, simply because it's what they need. You know, if you're doing one of these trays here, you know, and you were putting your tomato seeds in February or whatever, you wouldn't just use any regular old compost or dirt. You would use a proper seeding mixture. Well, it's no different with your raised bed. You know, I'm putting in seeds. I want to give them the best chance to germinate and establish themselves so that they're starting to produce vegetables for me as fast and efficiently as possible. Now, when you're doing these sort of quick croppings, you got to pick your plants wisely. I know I've only got 2 months until my first frost date, so I've only got a select few varieties of plants that I can actually put in here. Now, originally, my plan was to do rows of carrots, probably about 4 rows. But I simply have too many carrots right now. So I'm going to do a broadcast covering of my seeding mixture, and then I'm going to grow a spring mix of lettuces and mesclans and arugulas and things like that. And over there, you know, with the wire, I'm going to grow my 3 rows of sugar snap peas. So let's go ahead and get the bed ready. So now we've got the area ready for the lettuce. I'm going to go ahead and water this before I go over and do the peas. So we're going to do our peas all in a row here. So all I need to do is just fill in the row underneath the wire. Because later on, we're going to come back, you know, and we'll mulch in those areas that don't have soil. Okay, so once you got those rows ready for the peas, again, you're going to want to water it in preparation for the seeds. Now, whenever I'm doing pea or bean seeds, I always soak them for 24 hours first. So these guys have been soaking since yesterday, and they're ready to go in the rows we've just made. So let me go ahead and strain them, and now we can plant them. Now, normally, you know, I plant these guys about 1 foot apart, you know, because pea plants grow quite large. But I'm going to do these guys at about 6 inches, simply because they're not going to have a lot of time to grow as big as they normally grow. Okay, so we can go ahead and cover these pea seeds up and give them a watering. So for the lettuce, we're not super concerned about rows here. I'm more concerned about coverage. So I'm simply going to take my lettuce seeds. I'm not going to be crazy with it. Basically, I want this lettuce to be a cover crop until the next vegetable is ready to go in. So now we're ready for the final 2 steps, and that's just covering our lettuce seeds with another layer of this potting mix and then watering it. So there you go. Here we've taken a bed that most gardeners would have let lie dormant until next spring, or they would have dug it up and put their fall plants in. What we've done is we put in 2 quick crops that'll grow for about 6 weeks to 2 months, and then we can put our fall crops in. The entire endeavor took me about 30 minutes, which on an 8x4 bed works out to about 1 minute per square foot. So, a couple things to remember when you're doing this no-till method of redoing a bed. You're going to want to water between each layer of what you're putting on top. Because it is exposed to the elements, these guys can dry out pretty quick until those plants can get established and start shading down below. So, water your newspaper after you put it in, not only to stop it from blowing away in the wind, but also to give it a moist landing pad for that first layer of potting soil that you put in. Now after you put that first layer of potting soil in, water it so that it's got a good landing pad for those seeds. Cover those seeds up with another layer of potting mix and then throw water over that. Now with this thin layer of potting mix, you're going to want to water it probably once a day. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for more videos in the no-till farming series. As always, leave any questions or comments down below. I'd love to hear some of the methods that you guys are doing for no-till farming. I know there's multiple ways to do this, so let's hear how you guys are doing it in your gardens at home. Click subscribe if you haven't already. For those of you that have, I really do appreciate the support. And I'll see you next time.